Hey, everybody. My guest today is Daryl Davis, and we're going to talk about race and racism in America. Thank you so much for being here, Daryl.
Jason, it is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
First question. Why do you think that people become white supremacists or any other type of racial supremacist?
Well, it's not just one reason. There are many reasons, or I should say several reasons. Like, for example, it could be my grandfather was in the Klan, my daddy was in the Klan, I'm in the Klan, and my kids are going to be in the Klan. So family, tradition passed down, and that's all they know. It's like some people, for example, I have a lot of Jewish friends and some of them keep kosher. And if I ask them why, they tell me, well, my grandmother did it, my mother did it. I don't know. I just do it. They don't know why. Not all of them, but some of them. It's just a family tradition. Okay. Another scenario is if you are white and you move into a town that is a stronghold for the Klan. They pretty much regulate whatever's in town, and you want to do business there. You have to assimilate. You join the local country club, you join the local chamber of commerce, and the local KKK. So that's reason number two. Reason number three, people can go down the wrong rabbit hole. Get caught up in YouTube, over the pandemic and see something and just keep going down and further down, and they're being subliminally brainwashed until they're believing everything they see or hear. Another thing is, I'll give you an example, and I've seen the Klan do this. Take a rural town, like say a mining town, uh, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, some of these rural towns there have a lot of coal mining. And the coal miners are predominantly white. And they go there right out of high school. And they've done it for centuries. Their great grandfather worked that mine, their grandfather, father. And as soon as I get out of high school, I'm going to the mine. And that's all they know. These are not racist people. They're happy people. They're working. They're getting paid. They're able to pay their mortgage, pay their car note, feed their kids, clothe the family, whatever. So they're happy. They have no animosity towards anybody else. But then what happens? And this has happened quite a bit in the last 20 years. The company that owns the mines or whatever gets greedy, and they figure, we can lay off our workers that we're paying this much money to and hire some of those immigrants that are coming across the border, whether they're legal or illegal. We pay them that much. So we're saving a lot of money because this much money is a lot of money to them in their own country. So they lay off their white workers, bring in these other people, and now the white miners are out of work. They cannot get another job because that's all they know. That's all they're qualified to do is to dig coal. So nobody else is hiring them, and now the bank is knocking on their door for their mortgage loan, or the car repo person is coming by to pick up their vehicle. The Klan will come into a town like that and hold a rally and say, the blacks have the NAACP and the Jews have the ADL. Nobody stands up for the white men except for us, the Ku Klux Klan. Your jobs are not gone, but you're gone. Some racial epithet is working your job. Why is he there and you're not there? You've been there for generations. And why are they hiring that person when you deserve that job and you've worked there? So these people, they'll say, come join us, we'll get your job back. So these people who've never been racist before, they're in despair and they're desperate. And they're thinking, well, I have worked there for years, and my whole family has worked there since the beginning. And the guy is right. My job is still there. It wasn't like my job was terminated. My job is still there, but somebody else is working it, and I didn't do anything wrong. What do I have to lose? Give me an application, and they sign up that way. So there are many different avenues, to joining and reasons why.
Okay, that's interesting. So, of all the reasons that you mentioned, most of them don't sound like it's necessarily like tied to this notion of white pride or being proud to being white.
Um, it is, and if they don't come into it from that perspective, they will be indoctrinated into it once they get in. A lot of people, I won't say a lot, but many people have joined these organizations not from hate within their heart. They're just convinced of certain things, government policies, this, that, and the other things, that they agree upon. But once they're in, then the brainwashing starts. You are superior and you're being stepped on. And that person from that country is coming here and taking your job, and marrying your daughter and all this kind of stuff. I have people tell me, Daryl, I don't want my grandkids to be brown. They call it the browning of America, or white genocide through miscegenation. But make no mistake about it, once you're in, yes, you will, the hate will manifest if it's not what brought you in initially.
Okay. What do you think about being proud of one's race? Like, what do you think about that general concept? Are you in favor of it? Are you against it? Or, yeah, what do you think?
You cannot say that you are proud to be Asian. I cannot say I'm proud to be Black. A Jewish person cannot say I'm proud to be Jewish. Yeah, you can say it, but it means nothing. We have bastardized, if you will, the original definition of the term pride and proud. They mean the same thing, pride and proud. The original definition of those terms is the feeling that is derived from accomplishment, okay? You did not accomplish being Asian. I did not accomplish being Black. The only reason somebody is Jewish is because their mother is Jewish. So your parents accomplished what you are, and they can be proud of Jason Chen. My parents can be proud of Daryl Davis. They created me. What I would say is we should not be ashamed to be Asian, to be Black, to be Jewish, to be white, to be whatever we are. All right. Don't be ashamed of what you are. But what determines where you stand and your level of respect given from others is who you become, right? I give everybody a baseline level of respect. I respect that person because they're a human being. And as I learn more about that person, oh, that person, has a Guinness World Record for being the fastest in the 10K marathon or something. Well, my respect goes a little further. Or that person invented penicillin, a little further up, or whatever. So what you accomplish is what you become proud of. I'm proud of my college degree. I'm proud of the book that I wrote. You should be proud of your podcast that you have. These are accomplishments. But to say I'm proud to be white, I'm proud to be Black, you did not accomplish that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. The first time I thought about this was when I was doing a little reading into white supremacy, because the impression that I got was that some of these white supremacists were proud to be white, right? And they wanted to do some DNA analysis to figure out what their ancestry was. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm like 100% German or something like that. And it was almost as if they wanted to take some credit for the accomplishments of white people in the past, right? Like they'll say, oh, we have Bach, we have Beethoven. And
Right,
my response
right.
is, yeah, but you didn't do those things, right? You didn't,
Exactly. So
right?
what the hell are you proud of?
Yeah. So then the analogy that I made was like, yeah, okay, well, let's say that I'm a descendant of Genghis Khan. It might be.
Mhm.
He had a lot of descendants. Well, what is
Sure.
that supposed to say about me? It says nothing,
Right. Exactly.
right? So I just find it odd that you have different groups of people who just claim that somehow they're just awesome, and that awesomeness just rubs off on them, even though they
It
personally didn't
is
do those things.
it is an insecure need for recognition. And you don't want to be the underdog, you want to be the top dog. And in this country, the top dog for the last 400 years has been white supremacy. Sometimes I get the question of why do certain groups that come to this country who are obviously not white, but they're not Black, why do they lean more towards the white supremacist people or their agendas when voting or something like that? The answer is very simple. When you go somewhere and you're outnumbered, you don't want to be the underdog. You want all the advantages you could have. That's why you left your home in the first place. Why you came across this border, or wherever you flew in from, or whatever. You don't want to leave the frying pan and jump into the fire. When you move, you're moving for bigger and better opportunities. So who are the people who have the bigger and better opportunities in this country? White people. All right, so let me go with them. Not that I have anything against Black people, but if I'm going to benefit me and my family, I have to go with the ones who are benefiting and have that to offer. So they get, that's where they lean. And if they lean towards people who are of a supremacist nature, then they too become influenced and they start discriminating against the underdog. I've seen that happen. And some of them just go along for the ride because they're getting the benefits, even though they know they're wrong. There was a quote by Upton Sinclair. I'm going to try to paraphrase it. I might not remember it exactly, but it said something to the effect of, sometimes it's difficult for a man to understand something when his salary dictates that he not understand it.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. Such a good quote. So I've heard some white supremacists say, look, like you'll have some sort of maybe some sort of festival that is attached to some sort of culture. Like maybe there's some Asian festival and they'll have like Asian food and maybe some performances, they'll celebrate like Asian culture. But the one group that cannot have something like that is white people. And they see that as a disadvantage that they're somehow discriminated against. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that are this. They've had and continue to have all kinds of things that are given to them. Not to say that things should not be given to them, but if you're going to give it to them, then they should give it to you and they should give it to me. That's equity, right? Equality and equity. In the beginning, you did not see blacks on TV way back in the day. And any black person you saw on TV, for example, all those old-time Tarzan movies, those were white actors with blackface on. They were not black people hired to play natives of Africa and some white guy swinging through the trees named Tarzan, who's king of the jungle, king of Africa, white guy. Okay, so they hired white actors and darkened them up with shoe polish and blackface and things like that, rather than hire somebody who's already black, right? So finally, when blacks were able to get into TV and get into the films, what roles did they play? The maid, the butler, the chauffeur, the pimp, the drug dealer, all these negative stereotypes and lesser status positions, all right? Not doctors and lawyers and so forth and so on, even though there have been black doctors and lawyers. Are you familiar with the Andy Griffith Show?
Yeah, I used to watch it when I was a kid.
Okay, so I grew up watching Little Opie Taylor. I watched Little Beaver Cleaver and his brother Wally on Leave It to Beaver. I didn't see anybody that looked like me. So I'm having to identify with these little white boys. Now, which is fine. Okay, that's fine. But there are black kids around. How come little Opie Taylor did not have any black friends? At least one. No. Neither did Little Beaver Cleaver. Did you watch Lost in Space? Space Family Robinson, and they had that robot or whatever? They were lost in space, obviously, trying to get back to Earth. They went to all kinds of planets. They saw people with 3 eyes, 4 arms, green skin. They saw everybody but a black person on that show, So there are no black people in the universe because they're not hiring us to be on these shows. So a white gentleman named Norman Lear, who put together the Archie Bunker, All in the Family show, brilliant playwright and screenwriter. He put together like shows like The Jeffersons, which was about a black family. BET was created, Black Entertainment Television. Why? Why do we have HBCUs, historically black universities, black colleges and universities? Because we could not get into the white schools, not the state schools like University of Maryland or the Ivy Leagues, Harvard, Princeton, Yale, etc. I mean, today, yes, of course, things have changed. Not by much, but they've changed in a good direction. But back in the day, we couldn't. So we had to have something for us to relate to either get educated or for entertainment or whatever. I remember, I'll be 66 a week after next. I remember when I was a kid, the Miss America beauty pageant did not allow black women to compete because they did not want a black female representing America. And so they're saying they were not beautiful enough to compete. Back at that time, all the judges were white males. There were no female judges, no black judges, just white males. And there were only 2 categories. There was the evening gown and the swimsuit. because women didn't have talent. They didn't need to write essays. They were being objectified. Just walk across the stage in your evening gown, and then walk across it again in your bathing suit. And we're going to judge on your beauty. So they're being objectified. What was the impact that was had on Black women by being rejected from Miss America? They got low self-esteem, being told they're not good enough. So what did we do to elevate their esteem? We created the Miss Black America beauty pageant. All right. And we gave young Black girls who are American something to aspire to. They too can wear a crown if they win the Miss Black America pageant. So that worked. We elevated their esteem. Finally, the big pageant, the main one, Miss America, opened its doors to Black women and any women who were American, whether they were Asian American, Latino American, whatever. As long as you were American, you weren't married or whatever, you could compete. So since that time, we have had four that I can remember, four Miss Americas that have been Black, starting with Vanessa Williams and then Debbie Turner, and I forgot the other two names. So now that Miss America has opened its doors to everybody, we no longer need the Miss Black America pageant. So these things were created because we were being denied our equality and our equity. I remember when Black History Month came into school. All right, I was around then. Black history was never being taught in schools. What was being taught was called American history. And for all practical purposes, it may as well have been called white history, because that's all it was. And on top of that, white people were being given credit for places they did not discover and for things they did not invent. So these things I learned at home from my parents, right? A long time ago, before me, there was a fellow named Carter G. Woodson, a Black guy named Carter G. Woodson, who fought hard. He was an educator, fought hard to have Black history taught in schools. Finally, we got 1 week, and it was called Negro History Week. And every year for 1 week, Black history was being taught. We fought harder and harder, and we finally got 1 month, the month of February. What did they do? They gave us the shortest month, right, of the year. Now, we accepted February because February is also the birth month of two of our heroes in Black history. Abraham Lincoln, who freed the slaves, and of course, Frederick Douglass. Both of them were born in the month of February, so we accepted it. But Black history is relegated to that month, which is not right. We learn about Benjamin Franklin, Eli Whitney, Alexander Graham Bell, Thomas Edison all year long, but we confine Black history to just those days, those 28 days, not including weekends, for Black people. So what does that mean? The only time we can talk about Barack Obama is in February because he's Black. He made American history. He made international history. So don't talk about him in September. We got to put him in the Black history box. So when is Black History Month going to become American history, like the Miss Black America pageant now is unfolded into the Miss America pageant? So this is why we have these things, because they were denied to us. For example, in this country, the only people born, now I'm not putting them down, I'm just stating facts. The only people born with the right to vote in this country were white males. Blacks could not vote. We had to march and protest peacefully for the right to vote. Same thing with women, white or Black. They could not vote. They had to march and protest and demonstrate to win their voting rights. But if you were a white male, and they had another caveat there, you had to be a landowner. They put that in there because most Blacks do not own land.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding you correctly, what you're saying is, well, the reason why we kind of have this dynamic now where we celebrate certain other groups, like maybe we do have like some sort of Asian festival and stuff like that, but we don't, it's not really okay for like white people to do the same thing, is because of this history of discrimination and inequality. Certain people had to fight for their rights in order to be highlighted and to be visible and to be heard. And so it's kind of like saying that every month is White History Month. So you don't really need a month dedicated to white history, right?
Exactly, because listen, started out being February is Black History Month. All right. Now they've added March. March is Women's History Month. May is Asia Pacifica American History Month. November is Native American History Month. And I forgot now what month is Hispanic American or whatever. But why are we relegating these Americans to whatever month? Why can't it just be American history and teach it all year long, like you do with everybody else, like the white people I just named, Ben Franklin, Thomas Edison, etc. I look for the day that we no longer need Black History Month, where it just becomes part of American history, because that is what it is.
Yeah. I remember watching a short interview with Morgan Freeman, and I
Yeah,
think
he feels the same way.
yeah, he said something like that too. I think the interviewer was Jewish, and then and then Morgan Freeman asked him, "What month is Jewish History Month?" And then the guy said, "Well, there isn't one." He's like, "What? Why? Do you want one?" And then the guy's like, "No, I don't want one." He's like, "Well, I don't want a Black History Month." I thought
Right.
that was an interesting exchange there. So something that you said earlier leads to my next question, which is how race relations are today in comparison to how they were in the past. You said that they were a little bit better.
Yeah, they're a little bit better. They're not, where they need to be. We've come a long ways, but we still have a long ways to go. Now, I do feel that right now we are in the best time of our life. Even though there's a lot of racial division, political division based on race and whatever else, that we're facing, and it's going to get worse, we are in the best time right now. Because for a long time, people have tried to deny racism exists. They turn a blind eye to it. They hide from it. Oh, well, we've had a Black president. Racism is over. We're in a post-racial society. No, we're not. We're not. And we're seeing that in our face right now with a lot of things. The best time to address something is when it's in your face. It's like, you're driving around in your car and it starts making some weird noise that you can't explain. You take it to the mechanic and say, "Hey, can you drive my car with me around the block and, see if you can fix this noise?" Guy says, "Sure." Hops in your car. As soon as he starts driving it, there's no noise. And he drives around and around. You go for 5 miles, still no noise. He tells you, "Well, I can't fix what I can't hear." So racism has always been around. It goes and comes and goes and comes, but it's always been around. But we failed to address it properly. Now it's in your face in this country. And so now is the best time to address it, when you can hear the noise.
So I find it interesting that you say that now it's like in our faces. Maybe this is just naive of me,
Well, when
but
I say our faces, I'm talking about the American public in general. I've
yeah,
seen it all my life.
yeah,
Okay. But I'm talking about, the masses, white people.
I
Like for
see.
example, I'll give you an example. Let's take Rodney King or George Floyd. The George Floyd murder, I call it a lynching. He was lynched because that was a lynch mob. A lynching is when a group of people deprive somebody of their rights and kill them for some alleged crime before they have their day in court. It used to be the Klan and other mobs would go to the jail and take the Black person out of the jail. The sheriff or the warden would always turn a blind eye or not be there and leave the door unlocked, knowing the mob's going to come, and let that mob come in and take the guy out and hang him from a tree. That's a lynch mob. That's exactly what happened to George Floyd. What was he accused of? To this day, we don't know if that $20 bill was counterfeit or not. And if it was counterfeit, did he know? I have right now sitting here talking to you. If you were to open my wallet, I've got $100 bill. I've got some $20 bills in there. If I break $100 bill at the grocery store and they give me back some 20s, I don't know if those 20s are real or not. I don't have that eye. The clerk in the store who took George Floyd's $20 bill suspected that something was wrong with this bill. And he has an eye. He's trained to recognize counterfeit money. He thought something was wrong. Maybe it was. All right. He did the right thing. He called the police thinking that this might be a counterfeit bill. But did George Floyd know that it was a counterfeit bill? We don't know. Okay. Because he was denied his date in court to prove whether he knew it or didn't know it or was trying to counterfeit to money launder or whatever. We don't know. All we know is he was deprived of his due justice. The cop was the jury, the executioner, and whatever else. Right? So that's a lynch mob. Now, that happened during the pandemic, 2020. Everything is shut down. You weren't going to work. I wasn't, playing any gigs. Clubs were closed, etc. What do people do when they're at home and they can't go out? They sit around, they watch TV, they surf the internet, whatever. And what do they see? They see a man, a black man, being lynched on a sidewalk by 4 police officers. And now we've seen it. We've all seen it. Black people. When I say we, black people, we've all seen that before. We've been complaining about that for years. Well, if you got beaten by the police, well, you must have done something wrong. What did you do wrong? Didn't do anything wrong. I'm just driving home in my Cadillac. Oh, it stopped me because I'm a black guy driving a Cadillac, driving while black. That's become a real thing. So now these people are seeing this that they've never seen before. They being white people. Oh my God, I can't believe this. Why are they choking him? He can't breathe. Why won't they get off of him? Why you got 4 cops there? Why don't they just lock him up or whatever? They're literally choking him to death. I can't believe this is happening. This is what these people have been talking about all this time. And despite the high risk of a pandemic, these white people left their TV sets, left the safety and health safety of their homes, and went out into the street and marched and protested with us against that. So, that collaborative effort is what made progress accelerate. If we pinpoint the beginning of the civil rights movement, let's say 1955, with Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus, right? And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who orchestrated the bus boycott. It was effective. The buses changed their policies and et cetera, right? We made a lot of progress from 1955 to 1968. That was the first wave of the civil rights movement until his assassination, right? But the pages of progress turned very slowly. Why? Because the powers that be, which is just the polite way of saying the white power structure, when they looked at our protests, our marches, our demonstrations, our boycotts, our sit-ins, what did they see? They saw an ocean of black people with a few white people mixed in. There've always been white people who have supported and seen the vision that we have, and they've come out and supported us. But when they see an ocean of black people with only a smattering of white people, oh, well, those white people, they're race traders, they're sellouts, they're in lovers, etc. They just shut us down, shut their ears, shut us down, and the progress happens very slowly. But when the white people saw what was going on, many of them came out and marched with us. Now, what did the powers that be see? They saw an ocean of black people and an ocean of white people marching together for the same common cause. And as a result, the pages of progress went boom, turned very fast. In fact, those protests of 2020 were geared towards police departments all across this country, specifically the Minneapolis Police Department, where this happened. As a result of this collaborative protest, not only did the pages turn faster, we saw greater residual effects. We were protesting for police accountability, but some of the effects that we saw the removal of the Confederate battle flag from NASCAR grounds. You cannot fly that flag on NASCAR property anymore. NASCAR was ground zero for that battle flag, that Confederate battle flag. We saw the state of Mississippi remove that Confederate flag out of their main flag body. Who would have thought that Mississippi would do that? But they did. Food brands changed their labels. Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben changed their labels. So there was police officers were being charged, arrested, convicted, and sent to jail like that. As a result, 20 years ago, you never would have heard the name Derek Chauvin.
Yeah, no, those are some good points there. So, in a sense, our current technology enables other people to see other people's experiences, right? So perhaps you have all these white people who never really had any trouble with the police, and they're just kind of isolated from that type of relationship, and they think, well, if you're in trouble with the police, it must be your fault. You must have done something wrong. I don't really understand it. But now everybody has a smartphone, everybody has a camera, and then they see what happens, and then now people are saying, "Oh, wow, that was really messed up." Okay.
That's a good part of it. And then there are those people who who turn a blind eye to even that, don't want to see it, or don't watch the news, or well, he must have done something, because what was the defense that the defense used on the Rodney King thing? All we saw were these 4 police officers with 10 other police officers, all white. 4 were beating Rodney King, kicking him in the head, beating him, and the other 10 were just standing around watching. So those 4 police officers were acquitted, right? And what was the defense? Well, first of all, you're supposed to be tried by a jury of your peers. Everybody in the country saw that video, because that was the first time, something that horrific had been caught on camera, because back then, the only people who had video cameras were TV stations, the movie makers, and they were big, and they sat on your shoulder, and you had to, walk around like this, filming stuff, right? Now, as you point out, we just video on our cell phone. What did the defense mount as their defense? They said, because all we saw was what I just described. They said, well, you didn't see what precipitated that. Why he was on the ground, why they had to do this. You did not see that. Well, neither did you, the defense attorney. But yet, and then, even though everybody in the country and around the world saw that beating, they requested a change of venue. So now these people are not being tried by their peers. These cops lived in Los Angeles on LAPD salaries. They could not be living in Silicon Valley or Simi Valley. The venue was changed to Simi Valley, rich, affluent, white, gated communities. That is not the peers of those police officers, but they got that request and they were acquitted by that jury. Probably would not have been acquitted by a jury of their peers.
Yeah.
So the defense was, you did not see what happened before. Well, nobody else did either, because it wasn't filmed, except for those cops. So it's their word against anybody else's word. Same thing with George Floyd. You see the guy, sitting on top of him, and 3 cops protecting that guy and holding people back from the sidewalk. What had he done so egregious before that warranted you choking the life out of him? But that's what they bank on. Yeah. Well, now these white people are seeing it live for themselves, and they're like, "Oh my God, I got to do something." And despite the risk to their own health during a pandemic, they came out and marched with us. That collaboration is what accelerated progress. Okay, so yes, things have changed, things have improved a little. We still have a long ways to go, but that's the key: is collaborative, cooperative protests.
Okay, so that leads to my next question, which is mainly about moving forward and the steps that we need to take. What do you think about reparations?
Reparations are due, okay, but now how do we reparate? Native Americans who were treated extremely badly in this country have received reparations. If you have a certain percentage of Native American blood, I forgot now if it's 1/16 or 1/8, you are entitled to some services and some governmental money. If you are a Japanese American who was put in an internment camp, or you're the children of those people, you get reparations. You get a certain amount of money. At the end of slavery, I'm a descendant of slaves. My ancestors and all slaves were promised 40 acres and a mule. I want you to find me one person, or even one descendant or great descendant of someone who got that 40 acres and a mule. No one ever got one. Okay. So yes, we deserve reparations. Now, do the reparations have to come in the form of money, cash? No, I would say no. There would be people who would disagree with me, but and that's fine. I would say I would like to see reparations maybe in the form of tuition to let people who go to college and learn and become educated and not have to worry about where have to work 3 jobs to pay for their college credit or something. That would be acceptable to me. Now, there would have to be some, in my opinion, there has to be some kind of cutoff point. Should I mean, I don't have any kids of my own, but let's say I were to have kids. We're in 2024 now. Let's say I go out and have kids, and then my kids grow up and they have kids. Are my kids and my grandkids, should they be entitled to reparations? Um, no, not necessarily, because things have changed enough. But I think people who were born before a certain year, okay, let's say before 1970, I'm just throwing that out there. Yes, they should receive some kind of reparation
Okay. So
because it can't go on forever.
yeah, yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. So do you think that affirmative action was a form of reparations? And do you think that that was good?
You cut out for a second. Did I think affirmative action was a what?
Do you think affirmative action was a form of reparations? And do you think that it was good?
It was not a form of reparations. Depending upon how it is done, I don't believe in lowering the bar for anybody. I believe in bringing people below the bar up to the bar and above the bar. Okay. Just don't bring women in or blacks in or whatever just to fill a quota, which is what a lot of people were doing. The people who benefited the most in the 1970s when affirmative action came into play, especially in the late 70s, the people who benefited the most actually were Black women. And why was that? Because companies and places that do hiring, they were told they have to hire more women. They have to hire more Black people. So what did they do? They could hire a Black woman and kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So Black women were positioned in a better place than most anybody else, except for white males. But I think that affirmative education is a good thing. Give everybody equal opportunity to learn and become educated. That, to me, is far better than hiring people who may or may not be qualified just based on their race or their gender or their religion or whatever.
So I hear from conservatives, and some of them are Black, when they talk about, I guess, the problems with the Black community, they will often point to single parent households. They'll point to the declining marriage rates, and they'll say that we need fathers in the home. How much truth do you think there is to that position?
I think there's a lot of truth to that position, but it's not just yes, there are a lot of Black children who are being raised by their mothers or their grandmothers. The father is absent. He may not have been married to the mother. He may have he may have been married and abandoned the mother or whatever. But yes, there's a lot of that going on. But that's not to say that that white men don't do the same thing. There are a lot of white deadbeat dads and things like that. It takes a man and a woman to create that child. So you would think it would take a man and a woman to raise that child and give that child a balance of humanity from a male perspective, from a female perspective. Even if two gay men or 2 gay women were to adopt a child, they still find some male or female role model for that kid, because that kid came from a mother, that kid came from his father's sperm. So you need both somewhere in there. And so there's a lot of truth to it, but here's the issue. While there are also a lot of white people, as I pointed out, who grew up in single family homes, perhaps not as many as Black people, but yes, there are a lot of white people. Those white people who are single parents have a greater advantage than single Black parents, especially when it comes to getting loans, getting grants and tuition for colleges and things like that.
Okay. So this relates to my next question, which kind of connects to the previous question about reparations. So I find that reparations is a very divisive topic. I think a lot of people just find it very unattractive. They think, oh, slavery happened a long time ago. None of those people are alive. My ancestors were slave owners, but I wasn't alive then. Or maybe they're white, but their ancestors immigrated after slavery. And I'm wondering, just in terms of just like political strategy wise, whether or not it would be better and more productive to focus the moral justification for reparations on something more recent like redlining instead of focusing it on slavery. What do you think?
I disagree. I would say it needs to be focused on the past and the present, or the far back past and the recent past. Okay, you know, saying, "Oh well, slavery happened a long time ago," and blah blah blah. Well, so did the Holocaust. But we can't forget about the Holocaust. We should not forget about slavery. We should not forget what we did to Japanese Americans in this country, putting them in internment camps. We should not forget what we did to Native Americans. All right. So, just, using time, the passage of time as an excuse to exonerate oneself from one's responsibilities will never fly with me, nor will it ever fly with people who've been discriminated against. It's like if you have a child, and let's say your child was kidnapped and murdered. I don't care how old you get. Somebody tells you, well, you're 80 years old. You were in your 20s. When your little 2-year-old kid was murdered. Forget about it. Move on. Well, you have to move on, yeah, but you never forget about your kid being murdered and kidnapped. And let's say the person's never been caught. So it's always on your mind. Is that person still alive? Why is this happening? I've heard people say to me, like in the Klan, back in the, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or so, some of the Klan people who are still alive, who bombed the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, killing those 4 little black girls, right? Some of them were still alive. And in fact, I met one of them, but there was enough evidence to get that person and put him in prison. He did this like back when he was in his 20s or early 30s, and now he's in his late 80s. And people say, well, why put him in prison now? I mean, he's going to die anyway in the next decade. Why put him in prison? No, justice delayed is justice denied. That's not my quote. That's Martin Luther King's quote. Let me say this also, very important, and let me attach the significance of this. When I say we now, I'm not talking about just black people, I'm talking about America. We have apologized to Native Americans for how we treated them. We have apologized to Japanese Americans for what we did to them, put them in those camps. We have never apologized for slavery. The person who came the closest to apologizing for slavery was President Bill Clinton. When he was over in Africa and giving a speech, he said, slavery was wrong. Now, saying something is wrong and apologizing for it are two different things. Okay? So we've never had an official presidential apology for slavery. It wouldn't do any good for Barack Obama to give it, obviously, because of the color of his skin, right? Donald Trump certainly would not be giving it, but everybody has had the opportunity, from Eisenhower, Kennedy, Nixon, Ford, Clinton, Carter, Reagan. None of them apologized. But yet we give out posthumous medals of honor to people who deserved it back when they were living, like the Tuskegee Airmen and Rosa Parks and other people. For example, Rosa Parks, she is the first non-politician or government person to be laid in state in the rotunda of the Capitol. And people came from all over the country, all over the world, and waited in line to walk around her casket and see her. I was one of those people. All right. Rosa Parks was a criminal. What made her a criminal? The fact that she was arrested, she was booked, she was fingerprinted, and she was put in jail. What was the crime? Refusing to give up her seat to a white man on a bus. All right. That record, she had a criminal record. If you're arrested, you have a criminal record, regardless of whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony. It's a criminal record. She had a criminal for no reason, obviously, right? But she had a criminal record. Do you know that the governor of Alabama exonerated her, right? Removed that record the day after she was buried. What the hell is that about? That's an insult to injury. This woman got all kinds of medals, all kinds of accolades and awards and honors for the work that she did in the civil rights movement. And the day after she's put 6 feet in the ground, the governor expunges her criminal record. What the hell? That's an insult. You might as well just left it there, right? Mm-hmm. So if somebody deserves something, they need to get it in the present. It's nice, when you finally give it around posthumously, but it doesn't do that person any good. It doesn't really do their family any good, So yes, now the apology is very important. I'll tell you why. Because you brought up something about people who came here recently and their ancestors had nothing to do with slavery. Okay. I was lecturing one time at Michigan State University, and we were talking about this, and this girl, a white girl, she said, I don't see why we have to apologize. She goes, I know slavery was wrong and blah, 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 but I can't help it if my ancestors owned slaves. I'm not a racist. I never owned any slaves. She is 100% correct. She never owned any slaves, and I didn't assume that she was racist, and I don't think she is. Okay. So she's making that point that you brought up with some other people that you said, my family didn't own any ancestors, or if they did, I'm not responsible for what they did with slavery. Granted, all right? However, the apology is symbolic. So what I said to her, I said, an apology needs to be had before somebody can move on. I said, let's say, for example, I didn't know where she was from. I said, do you live here? She goes, yeah, I live here. And I said, do you live on campus? She goes, no, I drive to school. I said, okay. So it was in November. So I said to her, I said, let's say I go to school here. I'm one of your classmates, and you and I are friends. But I live in Maryland, and I live in the dormitory here. So you come to me and you say, are you going home for Thanksgiving? And I say, no, I'm going to save my money and go home for Christmas, see my parents and everybody. You say, oh, okay, well, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? I said, well, nothing. I guess I'm going to sit in my dorm room and watch TV. And you say to me, well, my grandparents said, I can invite some of my classmates over who have nowhere to go. Would you like to come have Thanksgiving dinner with me and my grandparents and a few other students? I said, yeah, sure. So, okay, so she picks me up Thanksgiving Day, drives me to her grandparents' house. And, we're sitting there having dinner, and her grandfather makes some off-the-wall racist remark about Black people, right? So on the way back to the dormitory where she's going to drop me off, I said to her, I said, what are you going to say about your grandfather and what he said? She says, I'm going to tell you, I'm really, really sorry. He should not have said that. I said, well, wait a minute. You are apologizing for one of your ancestors. Your grandfather is your ancestor. I said, you are apologizing. You had nothing to do. You did not make him say that remark, but you felt the need to apologize to me because I was hurt. I'm your friend. Regardless of how he felt, you didn't do it, but you're apologizing for him. Therefore, it is a symbolic apology. And when you apologize, it means to me that you do not condone that behavior. And I can accept that and I can move on. And then the next example I gave her was this. If you go to a movie and you're sitting in your row watching the movie, and somebody somewhere down the row who you don't know or whatever has to go to the bathroom or go get popcorn or whatever, they have to exit your row, and they walk past you and they step on your foot, and they know they stepped on your foot and it hurt, and they keep on going. They don't say, oh, excuse me, are you okay? I'm sorry. They say nothing and they keep on going. You're going to be mad because they did not apologize to you. And you are not going to be able to concentrate on that movie the rest of the movie. They have ruined that movie for you because your brain is thinking, why did that person step on my foot and then not say anything? They know they did it. You're going to be so consumed with that, right? But now if the person says, oh, I'm sorry, are you okay? I'm really, really sorry, blah, blah, blah. it still hurts. The pain is still there in your foot, but you're okay. The person did the right thing, and now you can watch the movie, and your foot might be aching, but at least you can enjoy the movie. The right thing is first to apologize. We have not received the apology. All right. And then the second thing is to make it right. We made it right for Japanese Americans. We made it right for Native Americans. Now make it right for Black Americans. But like I said, there should be, some cutoff. You have to be born before a certain time. Like, for example, you're familiar with the Tulsa Race Massacre, right? That is still not in our history books in schools. One of the 5 or 4 survivors who are still alive died a couple weeks ago. They have never gotten their restitution. The courts ruled that Oklahoma has to pay them. Oklahoma has yet to pay them. You know why? They're waiting for them to die off. That way they don't have to pay out any money. It's wrong. So I don't care how that happened in 1921. It doesn't matter when it happened. Justice delayed is justice denied.
Okay. So last question. Let's say that you become president of the United States and you have the power to improve race relations in this country. What do you think should our focus be on?
I think the focus should be on elevating your podcast so everybody can hear you, and give people a platform to talk about this kind of thing. But no, seriously, I would want to elevate conversations, and use people like you, yourself, and others as mediums to bring people together, to educate people to things that they don't learn in school. And I want to tell you, for me, a missed opportunity for dialogue is a missed opportunity for conflict resolution. We all have the ability to communicate. We even communicated live with somebody walking around all the way from Earth when astronaut Neil Armstrong was up there on the moon talking about one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. We were able to talk with him live via satellite radio phone from Earth all the way to the moon, right? You have email, you got a cell phone, so do I. Everybody probably does, right? You type a few words, type a few numbers, hit send, and you're communicating, talking to people, right next door in the next state over or halfway around the globe. Technology has allowed us to talk to people all over this planet and as far away as the moon. So why is it that we cannot talk to our next door neighbor? Because they have a different skin color, they worship a different way, they have a different sexual persuasion or whatever. It seems to me that our ideology must catch up to our technology. We are living in space age times, but there's still so many of us thinking with Stone Age minds. And this has to improve. And that would be one of my main goals, to foster harmony through communication and getting to know one another and not just relegating everybody to a month.
Yeah, I think you have a special gift for connecting with people, because I would say over 99% of people would be unwilling to have a dialogue with somebody else who hates them. But I really do admire you for that. I would consider you to be one of my role models because of that.
Well, thank you. But see, we have to, nobody is born hating somebody. That is a learned behavior that we have acquired from somewhere. And I know for a fact that what can be learned can be unlearned. It may take a while, but it can be done. Now, but I also know that there will be people on all sides, black, white, whatever, who will go to their grave being hateful, violent, and racist. But I've even had some of those people, like you saw, who came back and we talked again, we got along. That can happen as well. But there will be some people who will go to their grave being that hateful and violent. I don't give up on them. I just move them down my priority list. Right? And I deal with those who hate me, but they're willing to sit down and have a conversation and tell me why they hate me. So, like I said, you're not born hating anybody. And I'm curious as to what happened in your life that would cause you to look at me without even knowing me, never having seen me before, never spoken to me before, know nothing about me, never saw me on TV or read my book. You know nothing about me. All you see is this, the color of my skin, and you exude hatred towards me. I just want to know why. How can you hate me when you don't know me? And that was my premise for doing all of this. I wasn't out to try to convert anybody. I just wanted to know some answers. But in the process, through those conversations, people began seeing me as a human being. At first, they were dehumanizing me, but now they see me as a human being, and they turn out not to be, really bad people. They've learned something. I've learned something from them, and some of them have ended up becoming very good friends of mine. Some of them even come out with me and renounce their former organization. They try to get people out of it. They try to prevent young people from going down that route and joining those things. These are good people. Not all of them, but some of them are very good people.
Yeah. All right. I think it's a great place to wrap things up. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Jason, thank you so much, man, and I hope you'll stay in touch.